Welcome, curious minds, to another exploration here on AI History of Western Philosophy.
Great to be diving in again.
Today we're tackling something really interesting, a common idea, maybe even a misconception, about how Western philosophy actually began. Lots of people sort of picture it just bursting onto the scene, fully formed.
Like Athena from Zeus's head. Yeah. A sudden flash of reason, pushing aside all that old myth stuff.
Exactly, this image of a radical break. But the reality, well, it seems much more nuanced, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's less like a rebellion and much more like a deep, ongoing conversation, a transformation, really, with the myths that were everywhere in Greek culture.
So not a clean break, but a really sophisticated engagement.
Precisely. And for this exploration, we're heading back to the 6th century BCE.
The Ionian coast, right. Miletus.
That's the place. A real hub, and intellectually a genuine watershed moment. This is where we meet the first philosophers, figures like Thales, Anaximander, and Anaximenes.
And they started doing something fundamentally different.
They did. They began to, let's say, systematically question that narrative-driven worldview, the mythos, which you see so powerfully in Homer's epics.
The stories that explained everything through the gods.
Right. And in its place, they started building this analytical, evidence-focused framework we now call logos.
Okay, so our mission for you, our listener, is to really unpack this idea, this more subtle thesis. We want to show that this Milesian philosophical revolution wasn't just, poof, rational thought appearing from nowhere.
Not at all. It was a dynamic back and forth with the Homeric worldview that was already there.
So we'll look at how these thinkers took the big questions about where everything comes from, the forces at play in the cosmos.
Questions Homer was already asking in his own way.
Yes, and then they radically transformed the answers.
And the key transformation was replacing the agency of divine personality gods acting on whims.
Like Zeus getting angry or Hera getting jealous.
Exactly that. Replacing that with the consistency of natural principle. The idea that the universe follows inherent predictable rules.
And understanding this shift isn't just, ancient history homework.
Far from it. It's really about tracing the origins of science itself. Our whole modern search for order, for predictability in the universe, the roots are right here.
It connects ancient stories to ideas that still shape how we think.
You might genuinely have some aha moments today, seeing how these very old ideas connect to, well, how we try to make sense of reality now.
Okay, so to really feel how revolutionary the Milesians were, we first need to step into the world they inherited.
Yeah, you have to understand the context. What was the air they breathed, intellectually speaking?
Let's think about Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, not just as great poems.
No, much more than that. Think of them as the sort of central hard drive of Greek culture.
The repository for memory, theology, cosmology, everything.
They were the operating system, you could say. These weren't just stories for entertainment. They were the framework.
They offered the explanations for, well, pretty much everything.
Absolutely. And natural phenomena, why does the sun rise? The human condition, why do we suffer? The structure of the universe itself.
And the cause was always attributed back to the gods.
Always. A whole pantheon of gods. Very human-like, anthropomorphic, and often, crucially, quite unpredictable, capricious.
So this whole way of thinking, this mythos, was the bedrock of their culture.
It really was. It shaped everything, rituals, justice, how they understood themselves, and their place in the cosmos.
So let's try and picture that Homeric cosmos. It had a structure, right? But maybe not a systematic one like a philosopher might create.
It did have a structure. You can almost see it as a big three-tiered house.
Okay, 3 levels.
Vertically, yeah. A clear tripartite symmetry. At the very top, the apex, you have the heavens, Mount Olympus.
The home of the gods.
The exclusive home of the gods. Homer even uses architectural words like gates that creak open for their chariots.
But weren't they also described as clouds?
Exactly. That's the interesting mix. Part structure, part ethereal mystery. It shows a kind of fluid understanding, even of the gods' realm.
And below the heavens.
Below that, the middle level, the terrestrial plane, our world, where mortals live. And
they picture this as flat.
A flat circular disc. And what's really striking is how long that idea stuck around.
Even into early philosophy.
Yeah, Thales' own model seems to have kept that flat disc idea. It shows a kind of continuity.
Okay, so heavens above, earth in the middle. What's below?
Beneath the earth, the third realm. First, the gloomy underworld Hades, where the shades of the dead go.
Just shades, right. Not much substance.
Pretty much. And then even deeper, Mirroring the heavens in a way was the abyss of Tartarus.
The prison.
A truly formidable prison, yeah, specifically for the defeated Titans. Homer mentions bronze gates and threshold, a place of ultimate confinement.
So this whole vertical setup, heaven, earth, underworld, Tartarus, it was their basic map of reality.
It was. Divinely ordered, of course, but it laid out distinct realms. And it's this very structure that the Milesians, as we'll see, tried to explain differently.
Through natural processes, not just divine decisions.
Exactly. Through things like stratification, separation physics, essentially, not decrees.
And this flat earth disk, it wasn't just floating in nothingness, right? There was a boundary.
A very important horizontal boundary. Encircling the entire disk was the great river Oceanus.
And it was fresh water, wasn't it? Not salt like the sea.
Yes, a great freshwater river, not just a geographical feature, but a fundamental cosmic boundary, kind of like the world's circulatory system.
How so?
Well, Homer tells us that all other rivers, springs, wells on Earth get their water from the stream of the river Oceanus through underground connections.
Wow. And it had a role with the sun and stars, too.
A beautiful poetic role. The sun and stars rise from its waters in the east, travel across the sky, and then set back into Oceanus in the west.
Mythologically bathing in it.
Exactly. So this river didn't just provide water, it defined the very limits of the known world. Beyond it was the unknown, the monstrous. It was the edge.
And this image, this all-encompassing body of water, it must have been potent.
Incredibly potent, and you can see how it might provide a powerful starting point for someone like Thales, thinking about the fundamental nature of things.
Right. So we have this structured cosmos, bounded by Oceanus.
Yeah.
But the forces governing it, that's where the divine personalities come in strong.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't run by abstract laws. It was run by essentially a big, complicated, often squabbling family on Mount Olympus.
A divine family drama.
It captures it perfectly. This pantheon, they were intensely personal, human-like gods. Their key difference from mortals. Immortality.
Ageless and deathless.
Ageless and deathless.
Like John.
Deathless, exactly. They had divine ichor instead of blood, ate ambrosia, drank nectar.
But otherwise,
Yeah.
pretty human.
Profoundly human in their forms, emotions, social structures. A single extended family, really. Zeus is the patriarch. Powerful, but,
Sometimes struggling to keep order. And not exactly faithful.
Right. It's a whole web of kinship, rivalry, alliances mirroring the Greek aristocracy of the time.
And crucially, they weren't exactly moral role models.
Not even close. They were not paragons of virtue. Not guardians of universal morality.
Driven by more basic stuff.
Very basic, very human motivations. Honor, timices, jealousy, lust, anger. They lied, cheated, had affairs, held grudges, interfered constantly.
There's that great quote, something like, "The gods weren't fundamentally interested in your good."
That sums it up perfectly. Divine power wasn't tied to ethical responsibility in the Homeric world, which, as you can imagine, later philosophers like Xenophanes had a huge problem with.
He called Homer out for making the gods seem disgraceful.
He did, scathingly. But for Homer's audience, this was just how the gods were.
And they weren't distant gods either. They were hands-on.
Constantly intervening. The whole Iliad narrative is driven by gods picking sides, saving their favorites, smiting their enemies.
Like Athena deflecting an arrow or Apollo sending a plague.
Exactly. And Odysseus' 10-year nightmare journey home.
Poseidon's anger, right?
Yeah.
Because Odysseus blinded his son, the Cyclops.
A direct consequence. Divine will was felt constantly through omens, dreams, direct appearances.
So mortals tried to influence them. Sacrifices, prayers.
They did, but it was transactional. You made an offering, hoping for favor, but the gods might ignore you or help for their own reasons. Their motives were often murky, self-serving.
This creates a picture of, well, cosmic chaos almost.
It does. A world driven by external, interventionist, and unpredictable divine will. Conflict and multiplicity seem fundamental. Even Zeus struggles to impose lasting order because the other gods are always scheming.
It's this incoherence and moral arbitrariness, as the scholars put it, that creates a kind of gap.
An intellectual vacuum, exactly. And that's the vacuum the Milesians stepped into. They wanted to replace that divine chaos with something understandable, something regular.
With natural inherent causes, a stable arch.
Precisely, seeking order where Homer depicted divine whim.
But even within that chaotic Homeric pantheon, you mentioned one figure who seems a bit different.
Oceanus.
Yes, Oceanus. He's technically a titan from the older generation of gods.
Before Zeus and the Olympians took over. Right. But Homer often talks about him in a way that suggests he's something more fundamental, more primordial, even than the Olympians.
How so?
Well, there are these striking lines in the Iliad where Hera calls him Oceanus, from whom the gods are sprung, and another character calls him Genesis for all.
Wow. So maybe suggesting an older creation story where he and his wife Tethys were the original parents.
It strongly hints at that, yeah. An alternative tradition, perhaps, where water, embodied by Oceanus, was the absolute beginning. That's incredibly significant for what comes next.
So he's not just another god in the family drama. He's got this dual nature.
He does. He's a who and a what.
Yeah.
He's a person, a benign old god who stay out of the Titan war. But he's also an elemental force.
The great river itself.
The great earth-encircling river, the source of all fresh water, the embodiment of water's life-giving power.
And compared to the others, less capricious.
Definitely the most elemental and the least capricious. He seems to act according to his nature as water, rather than out of jealousy or anger. He embodies a principle.
And that's the crucial bridge to philosophy.
That's why he matters so much here. This singular focus on a natural element as a generative source, this hint of unity beneath the Olympian chaos.
It gives Thales a conceptual foothold.
A powerful conceptual starting point. The idea of a single natural entity being the genesis for all wasn't pulled out of thin air. It was already there, embedded in the myth itself, just waiting for someone to reinterpret it.
Okay, so into this world, steeped in Homeric myth, divine intervention, and these hints of underlying principles like Oceanus, step the Milesian.
Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes.
What was their big unifying project, this radical new idea?
Their central shared quest was the search for the arch. That Greek word meaning beginning, origin, first principle.
But not just any beginning.
No, they were looking for a single, fundamental, eternal substance or principle, something from which everything else originates and which persists through all changes.
A search for unity and multiplicity.
Beautifully put. The core belief was that beneath all the apparent chaos and variety of the world,
Storms, plants growing, stars moving.
there lay an ordered, rational, understandable system. A cosmos. Not just a jumble of things happening.
And this meant turning away from the old explanations.
A conscious turning away. They consciously abandoned mythological accounts for naturalistic ones.
Like the earthquake example. Homer says it's Poseidon the earthshaker.
Right, but Anaximenes says, no, it's the earth cracking because it got too dry or too wet.
That's a massive shift in thinking.
Huge. It's moving from who did this to how did this happen, from divine anger to natural processes.
And this shift from mythos to logos.
It really laid the foundation, not just for philosophy, but for science, too. It championed observation, reasoning, looking for cause and effect in nature itself. It basically said, we can figure this out.
Okay, let's start with the first name usually mentioned. Thales of Miletus, the first philosopher. What did he propose for the arch?
His big, bold claim, the arch is water.
Simple but profound. Do we know why he picked water? His writings are lost.
They are, frustratingly. But based on later reports, especially from Aristotle, it seems pretty clear his reasoning was rooted in observation, empirical evidence.
Living in Miletus, that port city.
He'd see water's power, its importance everywhere. He'd observe that moisture is essential for all life plants, animals, us. Think about seeds needing water to sprout.
And maybe how water changes form.
That's likely key. Its unique ability to be solid ice, liquid water, gaseous vapor. It suggests a versatility. Maybe it could be the building block for everything else if it can change so readily.
It's tangible, observable, transformative.
Exactly. A powerful candidate if you're looking for one underlying thing.
And his picture of the cosmos reflected this.
It did. He proposed the Earth was a flat disk.
Still flat.
Still flat, yeah. Floating on a vast ocean of water.
Which sounds mythological, but the explanation was different.
The explanation was different. It offered a natural reason for why the Earth is stable. It floats. And even for earthquakes, the water underneath is disturbed.
So replacing Poseidon with the mechanics of floating.
Precisely. Shifting from divine action to a property of the substance itself. Now, there's also that famous saying attributed to him, all things are full of gods.
Which sounds like he's backsliding into polytheism.
It does, but that's almost certainly not what he meant. It's generally interpreted as hylozoism.
Meaning?
The belief that matter itself possesses life, or is animated. For Thales, the divinity wasn't little gods hiding everywhere. It was likely an inherent power within water itself, its capacity to generate and sustain things.
So divinity becomes an immanent property of nature, not an external agent.
A fundamental shift in the concept of divinity itself. It's the life force within the arch.
Okay, that's a powerful idea from Thales, very grounded in observation. But philosophy moves fast. His successor saw a problem.
His student, or at least close associate, Anaximander, he represents a huge leap into abstraction.
What was his critique of Thales?
He pointed out a logical inconsistency. If water is the arch and water is fundamentally cold and wet, how can it generate its opposite, like fire, which is hot and dry?
Ah, right. How can one specific thing create something that contradicts its own nature?
Exactly. If the source itself has definite qualities, it seems it can't be the source of all qualities, especially opposites, without some external force acting on it, which defeats the purpose of finding a single arch.
Okay, that's a sharp critique. So if not water, what did Anaximander propose?
Yeah.
This is where it gets less tangible.
Much less tangible. He introduced a truly revolutionary concept, the apeiron.
Meaning?
Boundless, infinite, unlimited, indefinite. It's revolutionary because it's not an observable substance you can point to. It's purely conceptual.
Arrived at through logic, not just seeing.
Exactly. By seeing the limits of observable elements like water, he reasoned there must be something more fundamental, something without specific qualities.
So what are the qualities of this apeiron, if it's indefinite?
Well, its key qualities are what it lacks in terms of specifics, but it is described as eternal, ageless, and indestructible. Traditional divine attributes, notice, and it surrounds all the worlds.
And because it has no specific qualities itself.
It can be the source of all determinate things, and their qualities hot, cold, wet, dry, without logical contradiction.
Okay, so how does it create the world, if it's just this boundless potential?
Anaximander posited an eternal motion inherent within the apeiron. This constant motion causes opposites to separate out from the undifferentiated whole.
Like sorting things out from a mixture.
Sort of. Hot separates from cold, wet from dry. These separated opposites then interact to form the structured world. He had this idea of a sphere of flame forming around the air around the Earth, which then broke into rings to form the sun, moon, and stars.
It sounds dynamic, a continuous process.
Very dynamic. A constant cycle of creation and destruction, things emerging from and returning to the apeiron. It's a huge step towards abstraction, towards metaphysics, a truly radical move away from Thales's concrete water.
A massive leap. But maybe too abstract for the next thinker. Anaximenes wanted something more. Grounded again.
It seems so. Anaximenes appears to have sought a kind of synthesis, bridging Thales's empiricism and Anaximander's abstraction.
So he went back to a tangible element for the arch.
He did. Air, or air in Greek, which could also mean mist or vapor.
Why air?
Well, like Anaximander's apeiron, air seems boundless, it's everywhere, and it's in perpetual motion. Think of wind. But unlike the apeiron, it's observable. We breathe it, feel it, see it as mist or clouds.
Okay, so it's tangible like water, but maybe seems more pervasive and dynamic, less fixed in its qualities.
That seems to be the thinking. But Anaximenes' real genius, his most significant contribution, wasn't just picking air, it was proposing the mechanism of transformation.
How air becomes everything else.
Yes. He proposed two fundamental processes, condensation and rarefaction, Massazoisis.
Thickening and thinning.
Exactly. He argued that all the different things we see are just air at different densities. Qualitative difference is just quantitative difference.
So rarefied air becomes
hotter and eventually fire.
Then condensed air.
Becomes colder. First wind, then clouds, then water, then earth, and finally at its densest stone.
Wow, that's incredibly elegant. One substance, one mechanism, density, explaining everything.
It's a beautifully unified theory of matter.
Did he offer any proof, like something people could easily see or do?
He did, a wonderfully simple empirical observation. He pointed out that if you breathe out with your mouth relaxed, the air feels hot, that's rarefied air.
Okay.
But if you purse your lips and blow, the air feels cold, that's condensed air.
Ah, that's clever. Something anyone can try. It makes the theory feel immediate, testable.
It really does. And his cosmology fit, too. The flat Earth disk floats on compressed air like a leaf riding on the wind.
Okay, this sequence, Thales and Anaximander and Anaximenes, it really highlights something important about how philosophy started, doesn't it? This back and forth.
It's absolutely crucial. You see this amazing dialectic movement happening right there within the Milesian school itself in just a couple of generations.
That's like watching thought evolve in real time.
It really is. You start with Thales. Concrete idea, water, based on observation.
Then, Anaximander. sharp logical critique, leading to a highly abstract antithesis, the apeiron.
He pushes way beyond the observable, and then Anaximenes provides this brilliant synthesis.
Bringing it back to something observable, air, but keeping the dynamism and adding a clear mechanism, condensation, and rarefaction that addresses the problem of transformation.
Exactly. It combines the empirical grounding with a more robust, systematic explanation. This rapid development idea, critique, synthesis shows critical thinking being born. It's almost like early peer review.
It sets the whole pattern for future philosophy and science, building on, refining, challenging previous ideas.
It's the engine of intellectual progress right there at the beginning.
So let's pull back and look at the big picture. What does this journey from Homer to the Milesians tell us overall? They didn't just toss Homer aside.
No, absolutely not. They stood upon its conceptual foundations, as we said. Their philosophy was a deep, direct engagement with that Homeric worldview.
It was a complex, part continuity, part critique, part transformation.
A complex interplay, yes. They inherited the big questions from myth. Where did things come from? What's the world made of? What's life? But they completely reforged the answers using new tools. Reason and observation.
Using the old vocabulary, but giving it new meaning.
Precisely. Building a new intellectual house using some of the old scaffolding.
Let's look at those transformations more closely. The clearest link seems to be Thales and Oceanus.
It's the most direct rationalization, yes. Homer's Oceanus is a personified god, the genesis of all things, a who,
A divine father figure.
whose power comes from his personality, his divine status. Thales performs this incredible intellectual shift. He keeps the core idea water as the source, but changes the explanation.
From a who to a what?
Exactly. He replaces the personal agent, Oceanus, with the impersonal substance, water. The power isn't divine will, it's the inherent properties of water itself, its ability to sustain life, to change form.
So philosophy is building directly on the myth's conceptual framework here.
It's undeniable. Taking the myth's a core concept and stripping away the personality to find a natural principle.
Okay, Anaximander's apeiron feels like a bigger break from personification. Does it connect back to myth at all?
Well, there's no god apeiron on Olympus, obviously, but scholars see it as an analog, a philosophical parallel to the idea of chaos in Hesiod's theogony.
Hesiod being roughly contemporary with Homer, writing down the myths.
Right. And in Hesiod, chaos is that formless void, that yawning abyss that existed before the ordered world and the gods emerged.
So the apeiron is like that primordial, undifferentiated state.
It shares that quality of being boundless, indefinite, the source from which defined things emerge. But here's the crucial difference: Anaximander's innovation.
What's that?
Hesiod's chaos was a temporary state in the past. It was overcome by creation. Anaximander's apeiron isn't just something that was, it is.
It's an eternal, ongoing principle.
Exactly. It's perpetually present and governing. It transforms a myth about origins into a scientific theory about the ongoing fundamental reality.
And it's completely impersonal.
Utterly impersonal and abstract. Even though he called it divine, because it's eternal, indestructible, it has no personality, no consciousness, no body, it's a governing principle, not a governing person.
That's a decisive break from Homer's very human gods.
A huge step toward abstract, impersonal divinity, toward seeing the divine as the order of the cosmos itself.
Okay, and then Anaximenes with air. How did he take this seemingly simple idea of breath, the psyche, and turn it into a cosmic principle? That seems like quite a jump, too.
It is, especially when you look at what psyche meant in Homer.
It was just the breath of life, right? Not the mind or soul as we think of it.
Exactly. It was the vital force that animated the body, but consciousness, thought, emotion, that was thymos or nous in Homer. The psyche was just what left the body at death.
Becoming a flimsy shade in Hades.
A mere eidolon, yeah, ghostly, without real substance or awareness.
So how does Anaximenes elevate that?
He makes this brilliant leap using a microcosm-macrocosm analogy. His surviving fragment says it all. Just as our soul, psyche, being air, holds us together and controls us.
Okay, identifying the individual life principle with air.
So do breath, pneuma, and air encompass and guard the whole world.
Wow. So the stuff that keeps us alive is the same stuff that makes up and governs the entire universe.
It's a profound unification. The psyche isn't just a little puff of air that leaves the body. The substance of the psyche, air, is the arch. The principle of life becomes identical with the principle of being.
It connects the individual human directly to the cosmos through this shared substance.
It dissolves that old separation. Human vitality and the fundamental stuff of the universe are now seen as one and the same. all governed by condensation and rarefaction.
So looking at all these transformations together, Oceanus to water, chaos to apeiron, psyche to cosmic air, what's the overarching impact?
The grand effect is a systematic rejection of that Homeric model where gods intervene from the outside.
Things happen because Zeus threw a thunderbolt or Poseidon got angry.
Right. In the Milesian world, things happen because of the inherent properties of the fundamental substance itself. The cause is immanent, inside nature, not external.
So by giving natural explanations for things like thunder or earthquakes,
They implicitly made the old gods unnecessary, explanatorily redundant. If air condensing causes rain, you don't need a rain god pulling levers.
it sets the stage for more direct criticism later.
Absolutely. It provides the intellectual framework for someone like Xenophanes to come along and openly attack Homer for making gods seem like flawed humans. He could do that because the Milesians had already shown you could explain the world without those gods.
And the idea of divinity itself changes.
Completely. The divinity of Thales is water, Anaximander's apeiron, Anaximenes' air. It's not the divinity of a personal being who steps in and out of the world.
It's the divinity of the fundamental principle itself.
Yes. Divinity becomes synonymous with the cosmos's eternal, indestructible, self-moving, self-governing nature. Nature itself, in its ordered regularity, becomes the divine. The focus shifts from worshiping capricious persons to understanding impersonal principles.
So as we wrap up this exploration on AI history of Western philosophy, it seems clear the birth of philosophy in Miletus wasn't this sudden rejection of everything that came before.
Not at all. It was a deep, complex dialogue with Homer and the whole mythical tradition.
A process of taking things apart, rethinking them, rationalizing, abstracting, but starting from that inherited foundation.
Rationalization, abstraction, and redefinition, yes. Not simple obliteration. They really did stand on the shoulders of that epic tradition to see further.
And their real genius, maybe, wasn't inventing the questions from scratch.
No, the big questions were already there in Homer. Where did it all begin? What's the world made of? What makes things live? Myth had always wrestled with those.
Their genius was in their method, their insistence on a different kind of answer.
Exactly. And this leads us to a final thought for you, our listener. The truly radical thing the Milesians did was insist that the answers weren't hidden in old stories about gods,
But could be found within nature itself.
discoverable by the human mind, using observation and reason. This incredibly audacious idea that the universe isn't just a chaotic stage for divine soap operas, but an ordered, comprehensible cosmos governed by universal laws.
That's the premise that still drives science and rational inquiry today.
It underpins everything. So think about how that shift from relying on external divine whim to seeking internal natural law, how does that shape your own way of understanding the world? Because in many ways, those fundamental questions the bards first sang about, we're still asking them.